Hey there, everyone. Welcome to Oh Brother Comics. I'm Chris,
Matt.
and we're here to give you our weekly 10, which is our comic book review that we do every Saturday. We go ahead and we pick 10 books that we're most interested in, we read them, and we give you our reviews. Unfortunately, Nick is not able to meet with us today. He had some life events that came up, and life happens. So he'll be with us
Sure.
this next week, but we're going to go ahead and continue on with the top 10. Matt, how was your week this week?
It's a good week, man. I'm pretty stoked with the comics I got. Pretty good poll. It'll be fun, a little bit different with the two of us. We both get to do 5 comics each rather than like 3 in a shared. So, yeah, I'm excited. It's gonna be fun to talk about them.
Heck yeah, dude. And believe me, I had some pretty awesome comics. There was only really one book that I was a little disappointed in, but we'll get into that. How about you go ahead and you start us off, bro? Let's get this going.
For sure, man. So yeah, just as always, no particular order. It's just the order in which I read them is the order in which I review them. So the first one, the I don't know how to say it. Basilisk. There we go. Number 2 by Boom Studios. And the writer is Colin Bunn, and the artist is Jonas Scharf. It's pretty good, and I was actually really excited for it because Colin Bunn is the same dude that just did Parasomnia. So when I saw that he was the same writer, I instantly had some really high expectations for this comic. And it was really good. I think it lived up to him pretty decently. The comic was very eerie, very bizarre, very gloomy, but in a very good way. But it seems like a really interesting story. There's like these supernatural individuals going around, and they have these powers of the 5 senses, and the art is very graphic. It's but really well done. I definitely liked it. It's a very enthralling story. I do want to know more about the characters. In that sense, I'm invested just to kind of see what's going on. So I will give this comic like a very intrigued, Nick's favorite word, but he's not here to enjoy it. Very intrigued. 3.2.
All right. For number 2 on our list, I went with Mamo number 1. It's written and art done by Sas Milledge. I believe I pronounced that right. Sorry if I did not. But this book I was actually really excited to read. Unfortunately, it fell a little flat for me. The writing was pretty subpar. There wasn't a lot to it. It kind of just throws you into the story. And I wish it had a little bit more narrative kind of guidance to kind of get you in some information that you're missing in this story, instead of just this girl that goes, it's just running through the woods essentially on her bike looking for someone, and then just comes across the first person she finds and happens to assume that it's the witch that she's looking for. And it was kind of, like I said, it was kind of disjointed for me. And it wasn't until really the end that it kind of got a little bit more intriguing with the character. But I mean, I think I'm going to go ahead and give it at least a few more issues to see if it kind of helps flesh it out. It is a brand new book that I am interested in the story, but again, this issue just kind of fell flat for me. And unfortunately, I went and gave it a 2.50 brothers for this issue. I just wish it had a little bit more. Hopefully next issue will be a bit better.
All right, for my next comic, so this one was really interesting. It is not what I thought it was going to be. So this one is called Skybound X number 1 by Image. And so I saw the names. The great Robert Kirkman was attached to it. The great Ryan Ottley, an artist who I'm really getting into, was attached to it. So I thought it was going to be awesome. And even on like Instagram, I saw Ryan Ottley releasing some art and stuff before it came out. And I was like super pumped. But wait, in actuality, which I should have read the description, this is my fault, is it was simply a book to provide samples of what is to come into Image in the future. Had no idea, but it was, for what it was really cool. Like I got to see, kind of a story of Rick Grimes 2000 from The Walking Dead, which is amazing, by the way. It's basically Rick Grimes with a lightsaber dressed up as kind of like Invincible. It's like super crazy. There's like aliens and zombies, super cool. Then Clementine, who's also, I believe, from Walking Dead, And then there was Manifest Destiny, and then Ultra Mega. And Ultra Mega is actually really interesting too. I'll probably try to review that in one of these in the future. But so it's kind of cool seeing what is to come, but is not what I wanted from the comic. I was expecting an epic story, and it was not that. But you know, I would have been excited for Image either way. I didn't really need to see the samples to get excited. So with this one, it's probably not fair, but I'm going to give it a self-inflicted 1.5 because it was not a story. It was getting like a platter of samples, which is tasty, but it's not the meal I was expecting. It was not the filet mignon. You know what I mean? Yeah, so I'm going to correct that. I'm going to give myself a 1.5 for doing that.
And for number 4 on the list, I went with Star Wars Adventures number 6. It's written by Katie Cook and Sean Manning, and art is by Fico Ossio and Cara McGee. Now, this book has 2 stories in it, and they are a young reader book, so just to keep that in mind. But the first half of the book is about Anakin and Padme, and the little summary that they give us on previews basically tells us that it's supposed to be a story about Padme going to save Anakin, who's been Jedi napped. Well, that has nothing to do with it in this story, and I don't know exactly where they got that from. Because when Padme shows up, or it just starts off that she's there, and Anakin just comes up behind her and, like, surprises her right behind her. So I don't know where they got this whole kidnap thing. He's even got his lightsaber. He's not even subdued. So yeah, take that for what it is. But either way, this book honestly felt like it was just an agenda being pushed. The whole writing was very weak. It was almost like they didn't understand the characters of Anakin and Padme. Like they never even watched a Star Wars show, never watched Clone Wars, or anything like that, which was really disappointing because all they really did was trying to push Padme as like above Anakin. You know, Anakin was below. He was just a big simp essentially, and you know, needed to have Padme, you know, hold his hand to escape this place, which is just way outside the character of Anakin. And it's really sad to see because Padme is such a strong character, a strong woman on her own. So you don't need to do that. So I don't know what the hell the writers were thinking on this because it was awful. But the second half of the book was actually quite good. This one continues the story of the Nihil with Marchion Ro, and we get the first appearance of Mari Santeca, who is the hyperspace lane navigator for the Nihil. In this story, they continue with the story from the first book that came out for the High Republic, where there was the hyperspace almost collision with the Nihil, which caused the ship to basically disintegrate in hyperspace, thus sending all the debris constantly traveling, destroying planets as it's falling out through hyperspace. So it continues with that story, which is really cool to see. I hope they continue with that side of the book. Because that second half was so good, I gave it a solid 3.0. It really brought it up because it was going to get a low grade. And I hope for the next books they continue with that second story, and whoever wrote that second one, keep that writer around. It was much, much better. And even for young readers, that's what you guys should be putting out.
All right, for my next book, this is the one I was actually really looking forward to this week. It's by Huxo Comics. It's called, and I'm gonna probably annihilate this, but Tzinkan Demon Slayer, Tzinkan. I guess it's gonna pop up somewhere around here. You'll see it, but and it's one of those books where it looked really awesome, like really interesting, and it had the same. It was like done by one person. I always love those books where it's the same writer, same artist, colorist, all that. Hugo Hernandez Rodriguez. So mad respect to him. It was my most anticipated book, I would say, just judging by the cover and everything. But when I got into it, it was very, very, very wordy. Like in a sense where it was like basically just reading a book, which I love books, but I like my comic books and I like my books and I like them separate. But it kind of drones on, takes away from what could be a great book. Like, honestly, I had to stop and get coffee just to really focus on the story, just to get that focus, you know? through the tedious amounts of words. The art style is really cool. It's all black and white. The characters look really cool, but it almost looks like an unfinished product, like it was kind of sketched out and kind of inked up a little bit, but it wasn't the final product. But I like the look of it. It was that in a good way. It was kind of like a Maverick attitude, but just a very like original or refreshing aesthetic. So I did appreciate that. The plot has me excited. He's just going around hunting these demons and they all look really cool. And so I thought that, and he's like from the past or whatever. And so I want to figure out his story a little bit. But it was like so wordy that it was very off-putting in that sense. So will I go back to it? I'm not totally sure. I might give it another chance. So as far as a rating, I'm going to give it a very long-winded and lengthy and drawn out and prolonged, rambling and verbose 2.9. And notice how I could have done that in one word, and hopefully the author can see that too and do it in one and shorten it up a little bit, because I could have just said a very lengthy 2.9.
For my next book, number 6 on the list, I went with my tried and true, as always, Nice House on the Lake, number 2. It's written by James Tynion, and artwork is by Alvaro Martinez Bueno. This book continues on after the first one left off, where Walter essentially invites all of his friends that he's known throughout his life on this planet, and he brings them to this nice house at the lake for a little vacation. While it happens, the end of the world happens, and essentially they are the only ones left. So we continue on just after that event, and this is kind of the aftermath, the day after. And you really get to see just the chaos that is ensuing in the world, as well as what's going on in the heads of these survivors here, where you get to see them freaked out. And this is where I love Tynion's writing. Tynion is such a master at his craft at writing. As more and more that I read of his work, I'm just falling in love with it. It's so good. It's the way he portrays things. It's very realistic. Like, I could believe it happening. This is exactly how people act in these situations, and each one has their own special personality. And he just captures that so well. This book is just everything I've ever wanted. It's so good. We continue on getting more information. We actually get to see what happened that night after Walter disappeared, and it's crazy. This book, I don't know how he does it, honestly. I really don't know how these guys do this, where they're writing so many of these books and they're keeping with these stories. They're just so good. I don't want to give too much about the story away. Pick it up, guys. You have to pick up this book. It's just so good. Get it now before you can't. It's going to be a big hit, just like Something Is Killing the Children. I gave this one a solid 4.5 out of 5 Brothers. It is my pick of the week. Best book that I read.
All right, man. Well, segueing into my next comic, this is actually my pick of the week as well. This is Mangoat and Bunnyman number 3. Those of you who have not got on the Mangoat and Bunnyman train, get on the train because it's awesome. The writer is Joe Bruscia, and artist is Guillermo Fajardo. I don't know. And then it's just awesome, dude. It's only 3 comics. It's really fast read. Super exciting. It's just really fun, almost uplifting story of friendship is how I would describe it. It's completely ridiculous and completely over the top. But again, all the best ways possible. We get Goatman, who's a gateway to hell and like supposed to bring about the destruction of Earth or the world and mankind. And then you got the fluffy bunny named Floyd, who's like human size, and I think he's the Easter Bunny. I might be brain farting on that, but then you also get other people like Bigfoot, and you just get these like crazy characters, and it's like so silly and goofy, but then also very graphic. It is mature. It's not for kids. But then at the same time in this issue, I found myself like very like invested in these characters. Like I could feel the pain of like Floyd, the big fluffy bunny, where he, you know, his friend Goatman Phil is like killed, and then, you know, comes, and spoilers, but then, you know, he becomes like this demon and he has to kill his friend. And like I almost felt like it was like emotional almost in this very goofy comic, and like it's just amazing balance that the that Joe Bruscia brought to this comic of just how wacky it could be, but then how deep it hits you in the feels at the same time, and just such a special balance. And really, really into it. Really, really recommend this comic. Again, it's only 3 issues, man. So just dedicate some time and you're gonna love it. So it's a for sure 4.4 pick of the week. Easy read, fun read, goes quick. Couldn't recommend it more. Super awesome.
And for number 8 on the list, I went with X-Men #1. It's written by Gary Dugan and art is by Pepe Larraza. This story continues with Hickman's run, or after Hickman's run, of Power of X and House of X. Fortunately, I never got to read those books, but after reading this issue, I am definitely going to go back and try and power through those. This is a new X-Men book with a new X-Men team, which is the X-Men of Krakoa. It starts off where they have just brought their new base, which is like a giant treehouse. It's actually pretty cool, and they placed it in Central Park in New York, and it's meant to be their new home or base for the X-Men, as well as a meeting point for the other people of New York. Essentially, they, after the events of the previous Hickman books, the X-Men are now almost in like a good light with the humans of the planet. As of most of their books, they've always been kind of hated and feared. So it was a nice kind of change to that. They are definitely setting up some new villains in this book. We do have a first appearance, and I'll have to put it up on the screen, probably somewhere here. But either way, I'll put it up on the screen. His name, unfortunately, it's just escaping me right now. But we get to see how Cyclops is running this X-Men team now. We also get to find out that, I guess in the Hickman runs, mutants are now on Mars. They have colonized this planet. And overall, the writing is decent. It's very much X-Men style. It's advanced in a way. So I'm trying to find the right words to describe this, because overall I felt that it just reminded me of a classic X-Men book. It was a lot of nostalgia for me, and I think that's what I really loved about it most. Is the writing was good, the artwork was good, but really it just felt like X-Men. And it's been so long since I've read anything X-Men. I think the last run I read was probably X-Men Gold, and that's been quite some time since that book. And I've just been kind of missing this. So I'm really looking forward to the next issue. I was intrigued and surprised by this book. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 Brother Award. It is a good book. I'm really looking for the next issue, and I really want to see where they're going with this. I want to see the dynamic between the humans and the mutants and the X-Men and how that progresses. Hopefully it doesn't fall back into the hatred and fearing of the humans towards the X-Men again, like we've always had throughout the generations of X-Men, because I'm really liking the way that they're going in this direction.
All right, so for our number 9 book, I did Star Wars War of the Bounty Hunters 14. A little bit of a tongue twister, but there it is. So it was a good book. I actually really liked it. It picked up right where we left off with Valance and Dengar, and right where we left off with Tonga and Lasha. So it was just a fun Star Wars book again. I think it was a lot more action, a lot more fast pace. We get a little bit more Kira. We get a little bit more of a get to know Destic a little bit more. Not much, but we do see that she's very respected by various crime outfits. So also in this comic, we get to see that Bib Fortuna. He's kind of placing his bets on a lot of different horses in the Star Wars story right now, the Bounty Hunting story. He's kind of in the mix a lot. But again, I liked it. Was very amusing. It was a lot faster paced. It held my attention through the story. I think it was very refreshing compared to these last few Star Wars books that we've had. That kind of slowed down a little bit. This one picked up. I feel like it picked up a little bit more. I was very happy with it. I'm going to give it a refreshing 3.6 Brother Awards.
And rounding us off at number 10, I went with Masters of the Universe Revelation #1. It's written by Kevin Smith and Rob David, as well as art by Mindy Lee. Now, this book is kind of the precursor, the prequel to the show that is coming out on Netflix soon. It gives us a bit more story to kind of get us ready for it. In this issue, we see that He-Man, or Adam's father, the king, gets attacked by this creature that has kind of put him into a coma. And it's this giant kind of interdimensional or inter-timeline kind of being where it almost exists in multiple points in time. So it can't necessarily be attacked by traditional weaponry. When He-Man shows up, though, to try and save the day, he whips out the Sword of Power, and the creature is obviously scared and flees and disappears. Unfortunately, the king is still put into this coma. They assume that he's poisoned and in danger. So He-Man is basically put on this mission by the sorceress to go back into time, to the time where the creature first encountered the Sword of Power. During that time, He-Man actually gets to meet King Grayskull, and we get to see where the Sword of Power was first forged and how it affected this creature. I'm really looking forward to the next book. I'm hoping that it continues the story. It was very nostalgic in this book. It felt like I was watching a He-Man episode, so I'm really enjoying it so far. I definitely want to give Kevin Smith a chance in his storytelling. I have really enjoyed his work in many of the different genres he's done, for comic writing, directing, movies, all that good stuff. He does a lot of great work, and I really feel that he is putting a lot of time and effort into this He-Man story. So again, like I mentioned before in our top 10 most anticipated, like, give this guy a chance. I have really high hopes for this show. The book is starting off strong. I did enjoy it. I gave it a 3.5 Oh Brother Awards for this book. You guys should pick it up and at least give it a chance. You guys won't be disappointed, especially if you grew up with He-Man.
For sure, man. And I don't see how you can doubt Kevin Smith, man. Like, everything he does is great. Like, you know, people kind of having their hesitations with He-Man or whatever. It's like, man, like, just enjoy it until Kevin Smith proves you wrong, like, or lets you down. You know, it's not gonna happen. Like, go chill and go watch Mallrats or something, man, and just relax.
Right, and you know, if it's something that isn't necessarily your cup of tea, there's so many other cool books and stories and shows out there that might be right up your alley. Well, that wraps us up for our weekly top 10, guys. We hope you guys enjoyed this review. There were a lot of great books that we really enjoyed, some that were a little more flat than others, but hey, that's what happens when you're reading comics. Some, you know, don't necessarily hit your taste, and others really kind of, you know, hit that mark for you. Like myself, James Tynion, oh, I'm loving it. But guys, please leave us some comments down below. We'd love to speak with you about these books, and definitely tell us some of the books that you're interested in reading. We'd love to continue to expand our comic book reading knowledge, and there's so much stuff out there, we can't get to them all. But guys, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for everything. We're almost at 40 subscribers, guys. We couldn't thank you enough. We're loving it. We're going to keep giving you guys more and more comic information as we have it. Again, all I can say is thank you guys for watching. We will see you all later.
All right, peace.